do that every time. That's wrong, commissioner's here, ready to go, we got 5 minutes to spare.
I feel like we're a little bit too quiet, so just gonna start seconding things in advance.
Oh,
That'll make it go quick.
yeah, yeah.
So you've been recognized by the deputy mayor.
Oh, nice.
You are word person.
Right.
Who is the deputy mayor this year?
Governors.
Still,
As of this month, Melody Koenig, so starting on
Oh,
the
it
first
changed?
meeting.
Oh,
Melody's now the deputy mayor?
I mean, you're going to hit Alec.
I guess. I'll talk to Todd about
Yeah, I
that.
love that. So
So Todd is acting.
Was.
Was.
Yeah, we would technically ended on the 31st, and then so Melody with the first meeting on the 12th will be her first. That's deputy mayor.
Hey, who's acting for mayor?
Mayor Penner still is. If he is down in Olympia or out of office, then the deputy mayor will fill it.
Oh, okay, so you're fulfilling dual role.
Yeah, he's making it work.
You can't be
Busy
on
man.
the ballot for 2 offices, but I guess you can hold 2 offices.
Not,
He's finishing
If
out
your
his
timing
term.
is right.
not in the same level of government.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
but one state wants,
one state, one's local.
Yeah, I think that if he wants to run for mayor, I think. he can.
Oh, yeah, because it's different levels of
Yeah.
government, so. If he wanted to run for something else in state government, he couldn't.
Right.
You cannot,
Only in session for the first
you
couple of
cannot
months.
be twice or 2 times on the same
session
ballot.
and with the.
Correct.
So
March,
even
April.
though
I think,
one is
yeah,
straight, the
or
one's
maybe
roll.
maybe-
you
Oh,
ran
so
as
we would have
a
to-
Republican anyway, so.
Right.
I might as well, rainy day of the week, depends on why.
Gotta make sure my wife is on this level.
Not him, just
Yeah, yeah.
state government in general.
Yeah,
I enjoy having state rep as a their mayor. We're getting pretty high level.
I think it's weird that-
yep. I'm not too thrilled about some of the stuff that's coming down the pipe.
No, good thing we got a voting mayor and there's.
Even help.
I also, what's the Melody? What's the deputy mayor's name?
Melody,
Yeah, I was really impressed by her. I forget the last meeting I was at, it was last year probably, but I was really impressed by her.
Dog walk, the trail, every single day.
yes,
Their dog Delta, this little Jack Russell Terrier. And he was like, he walked her husband, and that dog has been for like an hour.
and it's, and the dog is a very mouthy little.
He's so cute.
She likes to stir up the neighborhood. She'll go at the fence to the neighbor on both sides and to our dog, and she'll start at all hours.
She does have a lot of energy, I would say.
Yes,
Jack Russell.
Jack Russell, yeah.
Jack Russell's a 200-pound dog, 15-pound dog.
Yeah. That's very true.
That's very accurate,
And they don't know it.
No, they think they are.
Mhm.
My dog is 170 pounds and she thinks he's 17 pounds.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, lap dog.
My,
The Great Pyrenees.
I have a Bichon, and she tries to sit on you, lay on you. She'll lay up on the couch and like, here's a noise and try to crawl up your shoulders.
Okay, if everybody's ready, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Daniel, would you call the roll, please?
Chair Cochran,
Here.
Co-Chair Craig,
Present.
Commissioner Rule,
Here.
Commissioner Bartholomew,
Here.
Commissioner Swanson,
Here.
Commissioner Stinger,
Here.
Commissioner Bush.
Here.
Roll is complete. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Has everybody had a chance to look over the agenda, and is there any additions or removals of the topic?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Craig, hearing nothing, I move adoption of the agenda as presented.
Chris Rule second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Those opposed? So carried. Public comments. Comments may be sent to the Planning Commission Secretary Danielle Churchenko at clerk@cityofording.org by 1 p.m. on the day of the meeting and will be read into the record at the meeting. In the case of a question, the chair will refer the matter to the appropriate administrative staff member. Comments that come in after the deadline will be read into the record at the next Planning Commission meeting. Moving right along to approval of the minutes for January 6th.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Craig, on page 2 of the minutes, under B, public hearing, safe parking. Second line, you opened the public hearing at 7:08 p.m. The closing time was not noted. I submit that we should add closed with no public input at 7:09 p.m.
Thank you. I'll make that correction.
Very good.
I didn't notice any discrepancies, but I just want to say I've been noticing the subtle changes to the agenda. And I really enjoy the layout of the meeting minutes and how it looks pretty. So thank you. I'm assuming that's Danielle.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Craig, hearing nothing else, I move approval of the minutes of the January 6, 2025 meeting as amended.
Chris Rule second.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So carried. On new business, public hearing for the zone text amendment, Orting Senior Center. Kim, are you gonna? Do you want to do your part first?
Yeah, I'll make the presentation first.
Thank you.
The chair's okay with that, and then invite any public testimony.
Okay.
Feel like nothing else on the ninth thing. Okay, so what we're here tonight to have our public hearing on is the zoning text amendment for the Orting Senior Center. Next slide, please. Staff is in receipt of a request by the applicant to change the portion of the Orting Municipal Code for the property at 112 Varner Avenue Southeast. This is what Orting Senior Center currently operates in. The Orting Christian Church operates on Sundays. The property is located in the residential urban zone along Varner Avenue. It's a 9,000 square foot lot. Right now, the existing building is 3,000 square feet. Staff that has, been in coordination and contact with the applicant over the course of the last few years to understand that there's a potential for a proposed future addition to accommodate additional seniors and capacity for the kitchen and the amount of meals that they're putting out to members, senior citizens of the community. But the proposed future addition of 1,500 square foot, a walk-in freezer, dumpster generator, any amenities or pertinent infrastructure that would join that is not subject of this proposal. The existing on the site is the community center, which is the primary use, and the accessory use is the church, because the church is secondary or incidental to the primary use. Next slide, please. This next slide here just goes to, there we go. This next slide here just goes to describe what is proposed and what is not proposed. So what is proposed right now is a text amendment to Orting Municipal Code 1333, which governs permissible uses in each zone in the city. And we'll dive into exactly what is being requested in the next slide, but I just want to make it very clear that although there have been discussions with the applicant about potential future additions and expansions, that is not at all part of the request tonight. The request tonight is only to change the zone that is proposed. Next slide, please. A little bit of background on the property here. July 2021, the property was generously gifted. The property used to be owned by the Christian church, and they gifted the site to the Orting Senior Center. There were a few provisions that were laid out and mutually agreed to by the parties, and one of those provisions was that the church got to use the property still on Sundays for services. And so that's what again leads to the church now being, although they previously owned it, now being the secondary user. The primary user is the now property owner and you know, uses the facility for the majority of the time, and that would be the senior center, which is a community center in our church's code, or in our city's code, excuse me. They had a pre-up following the gift of the property in 2021. And then followed up on some of the notes of that pre-app with staff a few months ago in winter of 2024. And we worked with the property owner and the church as well to be able to gain an understanding for the degree of non-conforming uses that exist on the site. And that's what led to the determination by the applicant that they would like to pursue a zone text amendment. Next slide, please. So I'll go a little bit more into the non-conformities on the next slide, but I just want to cover just for administrative and procedural processes of this project has been appropriately publicly noticed. We are required to provide Commerce with a notice of intent to adopt any new code, and they are provided a 60-day comment period. You can request an expedited review. I did that on behalf of our applicant. There's new state law, and that law is now incorporated in our municipal code that governs that. Applications such as this one have to be returned to the decision from the city within 65 days of the date of complete application. And that really brief timeline is very challenging for us to meet in Orting because we have to meet with the planning commission, have a public hearing, and then subsequently meet with the council and have a public hearing. Those each have to be noticed 10 days in advance. SEPA has to be done. It's just really succinct to do it all in that amount of time. And so I asked for Commerce to issue an expedited review, which they did agree to do, given the circumstances of the new state law that kind of are pressing us right now. They had no comments, and we issued a notice of public hearing on the 16th of January. We did receive one comment from Pierce County, that's Exhibit H in your packets tonight, and they were fully supportive of the project and spoke to their long history working with the applicant and their understanding of the need for future potential expansion of the site that this zoning amendment can work. The project is exempt from SEPA, so there's no noticing that's related to even a threshold determination. Okay, and so this is discussed in more depth in the staff report, but just to try and be succinct here, what was requested by the applicant, well, what was expressed to the applicant, I'll start there, was one of two kind of recommended approaches from the staff that the applicant could choose to undergo to be able to bring their site into as a conforming site. As it stands right now, the residential urban zone does not permit community centers outright or conditionally in that zone. Separately, table 1332 or table 2 of 1333 discusses whether accessory uses are permissible, and it does not discuss the ability for a church to be permitted an accessory to a community center. And so what that means is that the site exists in a manner that is non-conforming to the existing code. And what was expressed to the applicant on behalf of staff is that there are limitations in Orting's municipal code when it comes to non-conformities and how much they can grow. In general, non-conformities, kind of holistically, this isn't unique to Orting, but they're quite limited in the amount that they can expand. The fundamental thinking is, you know, they may have been outright permitted when they were constructed or when they were established, but that sort of thing isn't allowed any longer, and so we want to try to be able to limit the amount in which they can expand. So the way that our code is written is that For non-conforming uses, a structure that serves a non-conforming use can't expand more than 10%. And that the impervious surface coverages can't expand, I think, more than 20%. And the structure is existing 3,000 square feet, and they want to expand it potentially in the future by about 1,500 square feet, which means that they can't work within the confines of the non-conforming code. And so their options then become, ask for a variance from the hearing examiner, change the zoning, the text in the zoning code, or change the zoning map. We contemplated the zoning map change. We, as from a staff's perspective, really did not support that kind of approach. And that would be something like you take the property that they're located on, you rezone it from RU to maybe MUTC or something that would support their structure. And the uses on the site, and then the rub there becomes you can't guarantee what's going to occupy the building forever. So if ever the building went away, or the community center and the church went away, the building was then picked up by a Burger King or a car wash or something that was far more potentially impactful to the otherwise residential area surrounding the site. We were supportive of being able to see a text amendment come through. The text amendment that was proposed by the applicant was exclusive to the commercial or to the community center. And they requested outright permitted use of community centers in the RU zone. Their applicant was absent any discussion of the church also, which there needs to be some discussion of that. And so staff is bringing a revised recommendation to Planning Commission tonight, which more holistically addresses the full intention of the applicant and does so with more of a mind toward the rest of the community. The recommended approach that staff is making is for Planning Commission to adopt ordinance 2025-1141. And that ordinance would set forth both of the uses as conditionally permissible in the RU zone. Community centers would be allowed under a conditional use permit in the RU zone, and churches or religious organizations would be allowed via conditional use permit if they are accessory to a community center. This would facilitate the intentions for future development and expansion of the senior center. But it also works to be able to limit the potential proliferation of community centers establishing in the RU zone. As everybody here is aware, the RU zone is the largest zoning district in our entire city. And there's some, I think, real concern with the potential to just outright permit community centers in the RU zone for where throughout the community they might start popping up in otherwise established residential areas. Especially when those sorts of uses don't undergo any sort of SEPA review, or when they're not subject to any sort of discretionary entitlement process. There's a limited manner in which staff can look at and analyze the potential impacts of those sorts of uses establishing in residential areas. And so we support and recommend a conditional use permit for both of those uses as laid out in the ordinance. And I should correct that everybody here tonight has a revised copy of the ordinance in front of you. I errantly wrote that this was ordinance 2024-1141 in the original document. It's 2025-1141. And so if there is a recommendation that's made by the Planning Commission tonight, please set the correct ordinance number. And there's also just a note at the top that I left that acknowledges that since the original packet went out, I also went in and added the term religious organizations where churches are, because they're slightly different terminology with slightly different definitions. That it's an important distinction as advocated for by our attorney. So with that, I'm happy to address any questions or invite any public testimony.
Commissioners, any questions?
Do you want to do the public hearing first?
I can.
Turn on your mic. Sorry about that. I mean, it's.
Thanks. I needed that.
You're welcome.
At this time, we're going to open the public hearing for ordinance 2025-1141 zoning text amendment for community center. A public hearing is intended to be a one-way communication, providing citizens the opportunity to provide testimony on the public hearing topic of the city, for the city council or planning commission to use in their discretion making process. Please frame your testimony in the form of a statement of fact or opinion, not in the form of a question. You have 3 minutes to make your statement. The city clerk will announce that time is up. At that time, please finish your thought in a sentence or two at the most. Please state your name and your address. And yeah, anyone want to speak to that? Absolutely.
I'll speak on behalf.
Thank you.
My name and address? Sure. Okay. Hi, my name's Tim Ossink. My address, you need my full address?
Your street address? This,
3418 North 19th Street in Tacoma. I'm actually speaking on behalf of the senior center as the applicant and as a member of the public, I suppose. And I'd like to first thank Kim for all of her help with this in kind of, you know, helping me to this point, I guess, and all of her dedication in getting this shepherded through the process in a really timely fashion. So that's very much appreciated. The intent behind this was really just to align the comprehensive code, I guess, so that, you know, community centers could get sort of equal standing with religious facilities in the comprehensive code. The thinking was, well, what is a church if not a community center for the faith community, when the Orting Senior Center is, you know, a community center for the senior community. So that it was really just as simple as that. And as Kim pointed out, we would like to continue to, you know, have the organization be able to accommodate the growing senior community within Orting. They do a commendable service, which is very impactful to that community. And this will help them do just, you know, continue to do just that in a better fashion. So, you know, the Orting Senior Center was gifted this property, as Kim pointed out, by the church. At one point, the church was the primary use and the senior center was an accessory use, but those roles have now shifted. So we're just trying to, you know, honor the gift agreement by allowing, you know, the church to continue to use that. But to be frank, I don't know how many congregants that church actually still has at this point. And obviously the primary use is that of a senior center. So we would like to, you know, utilize that facility for that purpose. And really this is just, like I said, simply to give the community centers equal standing with religious facilities under the comprehensive code. So yeah, that's about it.
thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on the subject? Nope. Planning commissioners, any have questions or comments?
So what was staff's reservation on just rezoning that MUTC? Since it would seem to be consistent with the rest of the properties on the street.
The rest of the properties on the street are residentially developed on that side of Bonner. It's totally surrounded by other residences. And so the concern is that once you change the zone, the METC zone is supportive of a variety of different intensities of commercial uses. And so the concern exists that when we make that kind of change, the applicant today may not always occupy that space. And if they leave that property and it's zoned in the METC, then any tenant or new property owner could come in that has a far more intense use, one that borrows on more infrastructural demand, one that generates more noise, one that can, just potentially be more odor, that could create more odors, like a, fast food restaurant or something. And so with the concern that could potentially pose to the existing residences surrounding the site, it didn't seem like the best approach. Ultimately, the reason that that application isn't in front of you is because it isn't what the applicant applied.
Okay, thank you.
There is a second street that's affected by it, and that's Ammons Lane Southeast, because the property sits between two streets. Was there any process of notifying the surrounding neighbors, or is that something coming later?
We did a notice of public hearing for, the entire community because it's a zone text change. And so it's something that is effective to the entire municipal code. And so we didn't just individually send it only to the neighbors. We publicized it in the newspaper. We put it on our website. We put a notice on the door. We did more of a holistic one rather than individual mailers.
You did put notice on doors?
On the door of City Hall.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Yes, and so in an instance where the development or where the site were to be developed in the future, if planning commission took this recommendation and if council adopted the recommendation, then future site development would be site specific and it would have to undergo a conditional use permit that requires noticing, and the individual neighboring property owners would be noticed,
Thank you.
of course.
Was there any public notice placed on the property itself?
No, because this is not, it isn't specific to this property. The change would be made to the entire
Oh.
municipal code.
Okay.
Right. Now, with the church as an accessory to the property, 1 day a week, as specified in the deed of gift. If the church wanted to get into the safe parking game, would they be authorized to do the safe parking 7 days a week, or only 1 day a week because they only have tenancy in the building 1 day a week?
I don't know. I think that would just be stipulated in the MOU. We wrote the safe parking ordinance to require the MOU.
For
we
re-
we don't have a limitation for something like that. We didn't prepare one for that.
because the safe parking ordinance allows religious organizations to do the safe parking, not community centers.
Right. Understood.
Therefore, since the deed of gift very clearly spells out Sundays only for the church use of that building,
Mhm.
I would speculate that that would allow, if the church wanted to get into safe parking, 1 day a week only. But that's a definite distinction between community centers and religious institutions or churches, religious organizations or churches.
You go, pull up. I just.
When we did that code, did the church have to own the property?
I'm going and looking at.
I believe-
That's what I was thinking, that the church had to own the property.
I believe,
So that would, to me, that would negate them because they're a leasing.
Right.
Yeah, they're not actually the owner of the property.
right,
Yeah, that was along the same lines of my question. If it does this rewrite here give community centers the right then to suddenly do safe parking?
Yeah.
And
Right.
that would be something we would really need to look hard at.
and based on our discussion for safe parking and strictly limiting it to religious organizations only.
Right.
If we didn't, if the ordinance doesn't specifically require the church to own the facility or the property,
It doesn't, it just says safe parking host, we defined as a church or religious organization that hosts or manages a safe parking site.
okay? So that then, to me, would indicate that if that, and this, this needs to be clear to the folks if we approve this, that the church only gets 1 day a week if they decide to get into safe parking.
Well, that isn't, that's not a matter for, we're talking about editing the safe parking ordinance at this point. That's not a matter for this.
I understand. I just want that clear to folks.
Well, as the ordinance is written, I don't think that is how that could be interpreted. It says that the safe parking host is a church or religious organization that hosts or manages a safe parking site. I think that they could make an argument that they host or manage it even in times when they're not having service. I'm happy to take if that's a recommendation, I'm happy to present that idea separately to council when council goes to have their public hearing on safe parking, no problem, but it's not something that can be fed as information to the applicant tonight.
Right, that sounds almost, actually, it looks like we have found a loophole all by ourselves by something else. And then maybe that's something that should be, and maybe we can discuss that when we're done with this, but discuss about having, making an amendment to the parking, that the safe parking ordinance, that the church has to own the property. They can't.
But at this point, it have to be done by council.
Yeah.
No, it would be a recommendation from us to council to look at that.
There's gonna be such minute administrative procedural happenings around that, because I'm sure that there's gonna be language in our code that's gonna say that the planning commission issues a recommendation at a public hearing.
Oh.
And that much has been done, and so
Okay,
to usurp it tonight with some sort of other addition, I think that the best that we could do at
Okay.
this point is to staff will go to city council, public hearing for the matter, and
okay,
acknowledge that this happened and like this discussion ensued, and put that in front of city
Okay.
council. And staff always has every opportunity to be able to make a recommendation to council as well, and so it might be that occurs in tandem with planning.
Okay.
commissions.
I fully agree with co-chair Craig that it should be limited to just the one day that by the lease, they have control of the property.
Yeah, we can look at a revision to the definition of safe parking host. That kind of captures this discussion and present that at the public hearing in front of city council.
Does this revision equate community centers with religious organizations?
No,
Yeah, this one. Okay. Okay, and so if we were to approve this as recommended, the community center would not be able to take up safe parking? Is that, okay,
Well,
that's,
yeah, correct, yeah.
we're still talking about the church and everything else, but the community center, if they decided to get in the safe parking business, they would not be allowed to even.
prohibited at this time.
Yeah, that's just all I'm triple checking here. Okay,
But for this is just regarding the zoning.
right.
right. I just
Even-
want to make sure we're being careful not to allow suddenly community centers popping up in residential zones that also want to do safe
Right.
parking.
Yeah, okay. Safe parking host is, we prepared it and recommended it. To be written as follows: the church or religious organization that hosts or manages, but then religious organization is the federally protected practice of a recognized religious assembly, school, or institution that owns or controls real property.
There we go.
So
There
the
We're good.
ownership of this property is with the senior center, not with the church, so they wouldn't actually have the ability to operate that safe parking. use.
Okay.
But they would control it for one day.
But they don't own it.
They don't own the
But
property.
she read that it, say that sentence one more time, please.
The federally protected practice of a recognized religious assembly, school, or institution that owns or controls real property.
Okay.
Yeah, so the leasing controls it for
Right.
one day.
For one day.
Yeah,
So if they chose, they could do a safe parking on Sunday. Okay. Just don't want to see us have a community center pop up and then have a church pop in, and all of a sudden we have a safe parking in,
Right,
Every neighborhood.
understood, yeah,
yeah.
good question. I think we unintentionally got ahead of that.
Good.
Question, I wonder if it was possible to grant variance to the variance to the parcel itself. Is that a provision for that Washington state law to allow that?
Sure, yeah,
Where
yeah.
you could grant just a variance for a community center on this parcel.
It's not, it wouldn't be for the use, at best, they would need to. Variances can be approved by the hearing examiner for numeric standards established in the code. So if it were a conforming use and it were limited by the amount that it could expand, then they could apply for a variance. But as it is, that isn't something that's been discussed with Tim as he works with his design engineering team to be able to, explore just how big they want to make it, make sure that they be in compliance with the RU zone, because it is still more prohibitive in terms of sizing and impervious coverages than the MUTC. But the effort right now by the applicant is to create a conforming use at the site, because they cannot expand it by 1,500 square feet with the way that the code is written now. The hearing examiner could, in theory, issue an approval for an approved variance to expand the square footage, but he can't create the use of an allowed use.
So their proposed use is outside of what a variance would provide.
Correct.
Okay.
Right, variances don't consider uses, conditional use permits do, variances only consider performance standards or dimensional requirements.
Gotcha.
So even though there's lots of drawings and discussion about the additions and everything else, for this purpose, we're just to disregard that.
Absolutely,
Okay.
that'll be reviewed entirely separately under a conditional use permit, potentially a variance if they need it. Actually, in this case, it'd be 2 conditional use permits, and the applicant's been well apprised of that.
Okay.
And in the conditional use, it has the number 4 or 5 beside it.
Mhm.
Doesn't that require them to come through the planning commission for an ADR review?
I think that's number 3, 4, I think it's number 3. In the
It's 3 is subject to architectural design review, 5 is occupancy limit.
And so their conditional use is numbered what?
3.
would be for the community churches would be 3. So that would be subject to ADR review. The
Right.
church has a separate footnote. And that specifies that it's footnote number 5 for the second table, the accessory use table, and that specifies that the church is only conditionally allowed when accessory to community centers.
Okay.
Right.
I guess what I was trying to get at is when they do get to the point where they want to, add the kitchen and everything, will they have to come back before us for a review of the building?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Other questions? Erica, any ideas? No? Okay, hearing nothing else, I'm going to close this public hearing, and I forgot to say what time we started. Did you?
7:15 to 7:33.
Thank you. Okey doke. I will consider a motion.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Craig, I would move positive recommendation to the city council of ordinance number 2025-1141 as written.
Chris Rule, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So carried. Yeah. What was my? Moving down to architectural design review, ADR 2025-02 Safeway fuel signage. Danielle, would you read the staff report, please?
Yes, so Safeway Fuel, they are applying, or they're proposing a new permanent canopy sign at an existing building in the MUTC zone. Applicant submitted a canopy sign design with their application. Sign dimensions are 3'2" by 10'6", totaling 33.25 square feet. Canopy frontage is approximately 3'11" by 86.5", equaling 338.5 square feet. Sign dimensions are within the 10% allowed per OMC. The canopy sign will be an illuminated modified cabinet sign with LED fuel price changing features. Displays will be sectioned into 3 separate sections with 1-inch vertical metal divider bars. The main cabinet enclosure will be metal painted bungalow taupe. Left portion will include unleaded in 9-inch white lettering with a 12-inch red LED price display above on an opaque red vinyl background. Center portion will be the Safeway S logo on a white opaque blockout vinyl background. Right portion will include diesel in 9-inch white lettering with a 12-inch red LED price displayed above on an opaque green vinyl background. Sign illumination will utilize white LED grids. The sign will be mounted flush to canopy fascia, and the applicant has indicated plumb signs as the sign builder and installer. Staff recommends approval of ADR 2025-02 as presented.
Thank you. I don't know how many of you commissioners are on here before. We have never allowed any signage on the canopies. Main reason is it degrades the view of our mountain and our scenes, and you'll notice all of the canopies are all muted color. We wouldn't even let them paint it yellow. So a sign on the canopy would be a complete change to what we've set, in the past.
I'm unclear here because I'm looking at the elevations and what's labeled south elevation
East.
is the east elevation,
So
because 162 Washington runs north-south and it's parallel to the south, what's labeled the south elevation. So I think that's a problem, but we also have limited. Yeah.
Question. Is Safeway Fuel a different business operating under a different permit than Safeway?
I believe they're operating under the same business license. I could double check.
Then there's signage on the front of the building that also on the Safeway shopping center would also have to be calculated
Correct.
into their percentage.
I know
Correct.
they have two separate utilities. I'd have to double check business license specific.
I do know when you look at the file for Safeway, all the signage we've looked at before, and the signage for the station, was originally just, this sign was given a little bit bigger because of, the size of the kiosk is not very large. And that kind of worked into what was going on in the main front part of the building. I don't recall all the numbers. I don't have them. I mean, I didn't look through all this material, but it seems like to me that when we originally did that was one of the considerations we were looking at was the ratio of, because that building is huge. And so they could have put, quite a bit up there. This is just that one end where they put the pharmacy and stuff, but
So we have physical sign size, square footage.
Yeah.
Sign size. They have signage all over the front of the building, which then computes into that, plus signage on the gas station.
well, and they also have the freestanding sign for where the prices go.
And the other piece is, this is illuminated in its from inside out, and we don't authorize that type of illumination.
No,
It's all indirect illumination from, shining down on it.
I'm confused why they haven't asked for, if they wanted to, because we have allowed LED signs in the city. And I'm confused why they didn't want to just relight their price sign already. They've already got one out there. Why aren't you asking to put that there? Everybody knows to look there for the price. So why would you want to stick it up on the top? And like I said,
Monument sign.
no,
On the
the
monument
one that
sign,
sits out there behind the memorial.
the monument sign.
Yeah, for just the prices,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't, yeah, because I personally, I don't want to see us step away from the precedent we've already set by not allowing any signage on the canopies. Those canopies are huge, and if we start allowing that to happen, we're just going to see it all over the place. And one of the big things that we looked at from the very beginning is they're on the main street. When you're coming into town, the whole point is small town, big view. And my big view is not of the canopies at the gas station.
Besides that, if what they're trying to do is attract people coming one way or the other in town to their fuel station, the monument sign is a far more effective than up on the parallel to the roadway.
Well, the sign code does not allow signs that high anymore.
That's true too.
So they're putting a sign where it's above our code that says, I think it's 8 feet or something, 6 feet, 8 feet is all they can be off the ground. So they're wanting to put a sign way up there where they're not supposed to, which is not even in our code anymore. So they'd be asking for a variance to the code itself.
Right, because the top of the shed or the little kiosk or
Canopy?
no, the station where the attendant sits.
Oh, yeah, they call it a kiosk.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's basically 12 feet tall. And the canopy is it appears to be about another 3 to 4 feet above
Mhm.
that. So we're talking the bottom of the sign at 16 feet,
Yeah,
18 feet.
yeah, there's nothing with what they've proposed that complies with the code.
If, I know this one's kind of an interesting one, but it says sign shall not extend above the roof line, so if the canopy was considered the building or the structure that it's on, I think that's what we were going off of. There is let's see, projected signs and under canopy signs must provide a minimum 7'6" vertical clearance from sidewalk. I don't see a maximum in this table,
Well, that's not really that's not a pedestrian, because,
and that's just for under.
yeah, that's really for like under, when you're walking downtown and the canopies are only, 8 feet, 10 feet at the most.
I don't know what I would consider the.
That's not a
canopy
walking
over the
area.
Gas station.
It's not a walking area.
Well, I wouldn't consider the covering, the
Mm-mm.
carport over the gas station is part of their facade.
Yeah,
It's not
No.
part of the facade of the business.
No,
no, I don't either.
The facade of the business would be the little pay shed in the middle,
right.
if it was a different entity,
And that's what
and that already has.
the last time we did that, that's what we were considering was the kiosk itself, the facade on that particular building. And we gave them, a little fudge there because the building's small.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And they, like I said, they've already got the sign out on the monument sign out there with their prices on it.
I am a little concerned as well that in the ADR application, they call out 2 different signs, a 6-foot by 10-foot monument sign and a 3'2" by 10'6" canopy sign.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what they were, why they have both of them
But they're
listed.
both in the application.
It appears that they're gonna reface the monument sign with the LED sign as in addition to wanting to put it up on the canopy. That's what it's saying, yeah.
I think it's 6 foot by 10 foot.
Close.
Could be wrong.
It's,
I think it's close to that.
I've never stood actually in front of it.
But I also don't see any drawings or dimensions or images of the monument for application.
Chair, could you invite staff to speak a little bit to that? And
To,
to the second sign.
Danielle, do you have information
So
on that?
they did provide materials. We omitted that. We had discussed versus the code for them to retroactively fit it to do maintenance to that sign. It wouldn't require ADR review. So we didn't want to confuse by giving too much information when we're just focusing
if
on
they
the
were-
canopy sign.
But they're not really doing maintenance. They are changing the whole face of the sign. It will no longer be the little punch-on letters. It's going to be LED.
They're removing the punch-on letters and replacing it.
But yeah, that, to me, that's
That's a material rebuild of the sign. That's not
not maintenance. That's a whole new thing.
based on the language that we talked about previously. It's if they were changing the light bulbs or the fiber, the panel got broken and they replaced it with a like panel, that would be fine. They don't need a permit. But if they go in and they change it to be this LED, that's a totally different sign.
Yep.
And so that has to be included in their permit request. Because it's a totally different appearance and presentation. It's a rework of the sign. Yeah, different materials, different.
Yeah, no, I agree, 100%.
So, at this point, Madam Chair, Commissioner Craig, based on what I've heard and the discussion we've had, and since that portion of it is referred to but not included for us to look at, and since it clearly violates what our standing practice has been and what the code says, I would move disapproval of ADR 2025-02. Safeway fuel signage.
There's a motion on the floor.
Chris rules second.
All
We
those-
have- Can I interrupt for a second here? As an applicant here, do I have an opportunity to make comment?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were up there. The picture's little. I didn't see.
Need a bigger screen.
Yeah, there you are. Now you're big. Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. So the application for two sign faces. One was illuminated sign faces with the LED price units in there. One was on the monument sign on one side only, and the other one was to go on the canopy of the fuel station. And the idea was to have a little bit better visibility up there on the canopy by using one of the sides of the monument sign. I've heard the objection to that. I understand your concerns around that. And I certainly can appreciate the fact that having pizza boxes up there with a sign like that, there may not be something suitable. I appreciate that. So what I would be proposing instead now is that we just do, put the illuminated LED price units on both sides of the monument sign, which would be our one illuminated sign that we are permitted to have on this property. Am I correct in that, Danielle?
Danielle, she stepped out. But I can't see why that probably would be correct. Kim, do you know?
I'm sorry, I was distracted.
Oh,
The question-
he's talking about, the reason he was talking, the monument sign is two-sided. And so he was taking one side of the monument sign and placing it on the canopy. He's now asking to amend it to change that, take that down and put both of them back onto the monument sign on both sides.
Both.
That's correct.
The LED readout on both
The
sides.
canopy no longer is gonna be illuminated?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. And so then there'd be illumination of
Thanks.
monument sign on either side?
Right.
And we don't have any pictures, any documentation to look at to prove that or not at this point.
Well,
The text-
action taken on behalf of the planning commission could be, a decision based on the, revised materials.
Danielle, do you have pictures of the monument sign with the LED on it? Okay.
Madam Chair, I will, at this point, I will withdraw my recommendation motion pending the remainder of this discussion.
And I'll withdraw my second.
Thank you, commissioners. And I apologize, I did not see him up there. And I didn't realize there was someone here representing Safeway.
Just,
No worries, no worries.
do we have
Thanks for thanks for the opportunity of being on Zoom. Otherwise, it would have been a 2-hour drive down there.
Oh,
No, excuse me,
that was,
200-mile drive round trip.
oh my goodness.
Oh.
That really is asking a lot of anybody.
But it is worth it for the view.
Yes, yes.
Friends Day, come down for the day.
Yeah, and usually probably about July.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Come
Just,
try that.
just as a double check in our current sign code, do we or do we not have anything that prohibits LED lighting?
We currently say that you can't have an interior lit sign. The LED lighting, I think we reworded parts of that sign code about the LED lighting, because we have allowed LED signs for some entities.
It cannot change. It has to stay
No
fixed
material
for a
lights.
certain length of time.
Yeah, it
before
can't
could
flash.
change.
I'm just
Right. Oh,
asking,
there's
so if,
Danielle's showing us the
if we
pictures.
were to consider this and were to move forward with it, then we would be going against our own.
Right.
Yeah, there's a portion that tells you how the sign can operate.
Yeah, we allow for a sign to be internally illuminated. The text that changes in a changing message sign, which doesn't apply here, they're not proposing any of that. And the time duration that you're talking about is 30 seconds. An electronic message may not change more frequently than every 30
Right.
seconds.
And,
Yeah.
and hopefully the price of fuel will not.
Would be not changing that fast.
That fast. Although if it's going down.
Yeah,
that's-
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Prove that.
Let's put that in your recommendation.
Danielle, looking at the image on the screen, the one on the right is the one existing and the one on the left is what the monument sign would be.
On both sides.
Well,
Okay,
They're amending their application
Wow.
to remove the canopy light sign to
Yeah.
do the
and put them
price
both
on both
there.
sides.
And
So they would both look like the
One on the
illustration on the left. On that side.
Both sides of the monument sign and the canopy would have nothing now.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
I would be fine with that.
I'd be fine with that.
I think it looks, yeah, I'm so much happier. with
Yeah.
it.
yeah,
Down-
that,
Commissioners?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're looking at a conditional approval.
Yes. Yes.
I'm ready to second if you're.
okay, so, Madam Chair, based on the agreed amendment of ADR 2025-02 Safeway fuel signage, removing the canopy sign and just putting the two signs on either side of the monument sign, I would move approval as amended for Safeway Fuel ADR 2025-02 signage.
Chris Rule happily second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So carried.
Thank you for speaking up.
Yes, thank you. I apologize for not seeing you sooner. That definitely clarified things.
no worries. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it very much.
And Danielle, can we
Thank you.
get a written copy of that page that you
Yeah,
just
the-
had up there?
Yeah,
Thank you.
so that we all have that.
And Christian, make sure that you send revised materials into Danielle for us to be able to review those before we issue your approval, please.
Are we good?
Okay. We're
Thank you.
we're
Thank
good?
you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, down to old business, ADR guidelines.
Hey, me again. This is exciting. This is our second to last, discussion on the ADR guidelines. Okay, in the packet for this agenda item tonight is much the same form as you've seen over the last few months. The new slides for us to discuss tonight are slides 8, 9, 10, and 11. And, slide number 8, what I'd like to be able to, each slide contains some prompt questions to be able to work through the planning commission for staff to be able to, prepare revised guidelines for the ADR that comply with new state law and that also maintain Orting's approach towards design regulations, which is to be broad enough to allow for individual creativity and property owners and events.
Excuse me,
So, but-
which ones are 7, 8, and 9? Because ours have no page.
Oh, gotcha. 8,
It's like-
9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
We're discussing landscaping and.
Okay.
treatment tonight. So the last 4 slides, in your document.
They all say.
Yeah, they all have top, I think there's 4 slides. So we're discussing landscaping and site treatment tonight. Let's start with slide number 8. The question that I'm posing to planning commission tonight is whether what I prepared for slide number 8 accurately reflects the discussion that we've had at the January meeting. And I'm gonna just give a second for everybody to catch up to you. Sorry, I'm just cruising along. Is everybody caught it?
Yeah, it's one of
Would
the
it be helpful
trees.
if Danielle broke this up?
That's, we start with the one with the trees. Okay.
Trees. The one with
Yeah.
the trees.
Right, exactly.
Couple more there.
You've had a lot of Kim cup coffee there.
This is
Yeah.
the one you all.
Can I call you?
Yes.
This is the regular first one.
Oh,
Thank you.
that's nice.
Good to go?
Somebody steal your mug?
So this, that the edits that I've made to slide number 8 that you'll read attempt to be able to bring forward a lot of what was discussed with this commission in January related to the types of permissible landscaping that we would expect to see in a project. And so in general, the feedback that I took was we have an approved street tree list in the city, and we can use that as our guide for allowed tree species. But outside of tree species, we really don't have any sort of guidance. And so the discussion that we had, that I attempted to reflect here was that there can be a lot of flexibility when choosing shrubbery and ground cover, but it needs to not be nuisances or noxious weeds. And nuisances particularly, and I don't want to misquote you, Chair, but the prickly ones.
Yes.
We didn't want to-
We don't need any thorny
we don't
things.
like thorns, and so what I prepared here, attempts to be able to give some definition to the more ambiguous term inviting, with, remembering everybody that we have to create some definable method of success or measure of success for applicants that are applying for ADR permits moving forward. Inviting landscaped areas include those that include street trees listed on the city approved street tree list or otherwise approved by the ADR process. Include plantings that are not maintained or that are maintained to not obstruct walkways or limit pedestrian movement. Do not include nuisance species, which are chiefly those with thorns, spinous teeth, or prickles. And do not include any species included on the state or county noxious weed lists. We now have those lists.
Good.
And so I left a comment at the bottom of this as well. This is the city maintains all reference lists that City Hall can provide them on request. So we have everything that's cited here, we have on hand. Happy to be able to provide them to applicants as they're moving through this process to guide their understanding of what we agree is permissible. The question that I have on this slide is, did I do a good job capturing this, our discussion, or is there more to add or change?
No, I think that's
I
excellent.
think that's great.
I particularly love the use of spinous teeth. It's
Yeah.
impressive there.
I wasn't here, but it sounds.
Okay, well then let's move right along to slide number 9. Design landscape to enhance architectural features, strengthen vistas, and provide shade. This can be accomplished by, and so we should come up with at least one measure of success here. And the question that I'd like to explore more with planning commission is, what does it mean to enhance architectural features with landscaping or to strengthen vistas? And I've prepared some examples of what this could look like, just to sit out there as feelers. But you tell me, is it planting landscaping so as to frame views of vistas and not obstruct those views? There's some example images here of nice views of Rainier. The particularly the bottom right image to me kind of seems like the trees are established in a way that frames or leads the eye toward the vista. Is that the intention? I also noticed that those trees are deciduous species in both pictures. That would allow for them to lose their leaves in the colder months and give more of a view, less foliage in the way of a view of the vista. Is that what we're looking for? Using landscaping to add depth or texture to a building frontage. There's, we have a section here that says enhance architectural features. Are we attempting to, in terms of facades of buildings, are we wanting to be able to see plantings, put in place that add some sort of depth or structure or, come out from the building, add some sort of, just break up the otherwise monotonous look of a facade? Are there other ideas? What do we think?
I enjoy the breakup of the facade. So on your picture on the lower right, the tree to the far right breaks up the building.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that. The manhole thing there's got to be a way. I don't even know what language to put, but there's got to be a way to hide stuff like that. And so, whether by painting it or making, somebody can put a mural on it or something, or put a bush in front of it.
Careful, some of the murals that I've seen.
Oh, well, okay, so put a bush in front of it with no spinos teeth. Might be, I don't know how to word all that. Kim, I'm
I'm
sure
not sure what that even is.
It's
You can see
storm drainage.
Drain.
It's storm
That,
drainage.
Yeah.
this,
It's storm drainage.
the big concrete one?
Yeah, it's storm drainage
Really?
access, yeah.
Yeah, I think that there likely in this case would be some public works standards that prevail in terms of providing access. But I think that you'll see some of what you might like to see Commissioner Rule in one of the slides to come here in terms of screening certain elements of a
Yeah.
site using foliage.
Okay. And I also like how you suggested framing the view of the vista. I
Yeah.
think that's excellent. So I don't know that I would recommend deciduous trees, but that's just me.
I actually like that versus evergreens, because then, yeah, you do break up the view. They tend to grow up higher for security and visibility. They're not gonna fill in all the way down to the ground. Block.
What's nice too about the deciduous trees, it gives you a different view
Yeah.
depending on what time of year you're looking at it.
Yeah.
Where the evergreen just keeps growing and then pretty soon you can't see anything anyway.
However, sometimes public utilities would really not like this whole concept.
That's what I was thinking.
Because I watch the frustration on the faces of our
The leaf-
city
the leaf
employees
scrapers.
when they're out there blowing and they get them blown and the next day they have to go do it all
Oh.
again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I really like the view from my house in the fall, winter and early spring, because I can look up on top floor, see the mountain.
mhm.
Yeah.
People over in the, spring, or early summer, and like, you have to pretend like you can see.
The mountain's there, I promise. It's right there. It never moves. It's still there.
Covered by trees.
Yeah. I can't see mine because my evergreen tree is so big now I can't see out.
We've been meaning to talk to you about that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't, yeah, that's gonna have to stay. I can't afford to take that sucker out.
I think everything you have in there is great.
Yeah, I like the language. I think that's really good.
I might encourage us just to, so that way we don't conflict with the previous slide that in the discussion of deciduous trees, we might say something a little fluffier, like encourage.
Yeah.
Only because we otherwise state that selecting something off our approved street tree list is permissible and acceptable.
Which probably includes evergreen.
It does include evergreen, exactly. So we might kind of roll with what we've got framed here in general, but otherwise, keep deciduous trees as something that is encouraged.
I agree.
It's so tricky to do landscaping. And some of them, like if you look at the entrance to White Hawk. And when they built that, you could actually see the fence that surrounds the retention pond there, detention. I never know, is it detention or retention?
Retention.
Retention. And now whatever ivy or whatever is growing on it, they cut away, so you can still see White Hawk, but that's completely camouflaged the pond behind it. And then they did a planting for the entrance to Village Green. I always call it South because it's the second entrance. And whatever they picked didn't grow the way they wanted and got so big it covered up the sign. And so, it's really delicate how but I like the texture. I like the plantings. I like gardening. I really want to see, that kind of, attention to it. But sometimes it's just really difficult to tell you what to do, what to put there, what not to put there. I know the city, we planted these, I think they look like little boxwoods right here in this planting. And I don't think, was Scott still here or was it Mark? I can't remember now, but it's next to the handicap parking. And I said, when you open your door, your door goes right into those bushes. They really are planted too close to the curb. And I don't know, you know, nobody else complains, so I guess they're okay, or maybe they're just gonna get the snot beat out of them. I don't know. But yeah, it's hard to decide, but yeah, no, I like what you wrote, Kim. Sounds really good. Yeah, the whole thing with texture and depth, you know, trying to, because landscaping really does make or break an area real quick.
Or to that point, maybe adding something in there in regards to anticipated, 10-year growth of what they plan.
Maintenance, that's a big thing to make, because some people that let those big junipers grow right out over the sidewalk.
Well, and if you look, and I'm gonna point at White
That's
Hawk.
residential, not commercial.
I'm gonna point at White Hawk here.
Okay.
When they built the White Hawk development, each property was required to have a tree.
Mhm.
And so they went along and they planted trees, and some of the trees are great. But under the concept of thou shalt not have a plant that obscures anybody else's view of the mountain. Some of those trees that they planted have grown now to where it takes out a whole bunch of people's ability to see the mountain.
Yeah.
Is the tree then out of compliance? Well, but I mean, so
No,
we
I
do
know.
need to think about that in our wording.
White Hawk was built so long ago. I don't know if we actually had that tree list, and if the list of trees that we have, if there's a height, most of them or if they stay shorter. I don't know. I mean, like if the maximum height of any of the trees on our list, is it 20 feet or 30 feet or like 130, like evergreen?
So we can take a look at that.
I'm just,
The list is huge, so we can take a look. and
Yeah.
see if that's-
Just give some thought to when you craft the actual verbiage of that, maybe put in there, like was recommended, that give thought to 10-year growth.
Yeah, I wrote down mind the mature growth of the species and maintain landscaping to maintain vista framing.
Yes,
yeah, that's
There.
perfect.
thank you.
Yeah.
We also already have, Sherry has on the first slide there, include plantings that are maintained to not obstruct walkways or limit
Oh, good,
pedestrian
yeah.
movement, which would be
Yeah.
include the boxwoods out front, but I do like, she also has landscaping so as to frame views of vistas and not obstruct those views. And
Yeah.
so, but I like what you just said, maintaining mature growth there.
But yeah, I mean, if this was a retail establishment that was approved and they put plantings that was approved in front of it.
Yeah.
It would probably look great on day 1 and day 700, but you get 9-10 years down the
Yep.
road and pretty soon you've got.
Well, you look at the two
8
maple
foot-
trees,
Totally.
the maple trees across the street here, they've been there since 1900.
Yeah,
And, they got tree trunks on them the size of two of these desks put
The
together.
key being plantings that are maintained.
Yeah.
Because, okay,
I think
it's,
so.
The commission might recall also that you're well within your right to issue a conditional approval, and your condition could be you're required to maintain your plantings.
Yeah.
right,
So,
because there's a number of places where the plantings have been maintained, but they haven't been trimmed. And they've obstructed sidewalks and.
Are we allowed to conditionally? Any future approval is a conditional approval to maintain? Are we allowed to just like put that in perpetuity?
that's called a canned condition. We're doing all the time.
There you go. There you go.
have a stamp.
Next.
Okay, well, if there's no other comments, we can move on to the next slide. The next slide, I don't need much other than verification from planning commission. We recently discussed with planning commission in terms of RVs and screening for RVs, what we wanted to see as definitive of screening. And I just wanted to explore with planning commission whether we wanted to carry that same thought process over to screening in terms of its use for landscaping in the ADR. So it says, in this context, I've just borrowed straight from what we already worked up with the RVs. In this context, service areas shall be screened, provided an opaque fence of at least 6 feet in height or similar vegetative or structural screen separates the service area from public view.
Yeah, keep it keep it simple, keep it continuous and consistent, because that way, you know, when we're talking dumpsters, okay, well, here it is. When we're talking RVs, okay, here it is. When we're talking, you know, so, yeah.
What's bad, the picture that they chose, we didn't choose these. One of our planners at the time, put this book together. This particular building, they're not screening, a service area. They're screening, well, it's just their parking lot. It'd be nice if we could find
Those are
us.
just not maintained shrubs.
Actually, you know what?
Yeah,
They just recently cut a bunch of their stuff down. It doesn't look like this.
That is-
Yeah, around the sign there, in fact, I think they even took that tree out. They cleaned out everything. I was shocked when I went by it. Holy cow, that's really naked looking now. So they, you know, I don't know what they plan to do there. But it'd be nice, I don't know if we've got any place in town where somebody is screening with plants.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Safeway does an interesting, because they don't really with plants, but they've got a huge structure and they take all of their service, delivery bays and through the back of the building.
Yeah.
So it's very well screened, but.
It is.
they don't use any
But they
service.
also.
And they aren't trimmed.
But they also take all their bread carts and stuff and run them up into the flower beds between the bushes.
Right, but if you
Really?
walk by there, they're not keeping it trimmed and it's overgrowing the sidewalk.
I usually drive by, I don't walk
No.
back there. Yeah. But yeah,
I
No.
walk by there on a regular basis and it's,
yeah, I've always just noticed all the, you know, looks like the bread carts or whatever, and they jam them up into the bushes, and I'm thinking, I don't know why you're doing that. That looks horrible. You've got these beautiful bushes there and now you've messed it up, but
I like this because it provides flexibility.
yeah, no, I agree that the language should all stay the same. I think that's good. I like that too.
Okay, excellent. We're on to the last slide then, and, the words here, there's a number of words here that are pretty vague, and they're gonna need some work, subtle, attractive, and enhances. So what we're reading is provide exterior lighting that is subtle and attractive, and that enhances the building and the site. This can be achieved by, and, we should really, work
What's
out.
subtle about that? Come on.
One thing that I noticed when I was working through this, and trying to come up with good language and good thought to be able to share tonight with you was especially in the avoid box. It seems like, that there's something focused here, you know, it seems like the idea of enhancing the structure or carrying out something that's subtle is to, I guess, there's too much light here. They've got, you know, the guy in the bottom left, and like the light is like, it gets his head, it gets his body, it gets everything between his head and the building. It seems like everything that's kind of conveyed here as problematic is too much light or too bright of a light. I don't think that this commission has expressed any desire to be as specific as limiting a certain number of lumens that
Right.
can be allowed.
I don't know. We talked about that for the church.
we did.
We
we-
did talk about that. I don't know. We didn't ever put that into writing though, I don't think.
But I think that was more in the context of it impacting.
The
And
neighbors.
It was too
Others.
tall and not shielded and all that.
Right,
stuff.
yeah,
And now that it's lowered and shielded, it's not an issue.
right, yeah.
How do we say, like, are we against the colored lights? Is that what you're saying there?
No, I think most of it, if you look at all the stuff that we've approved, it's always been, you know, either turn of the century, like our street lights, the globes downtown, or the gooseneck lamps that kind of direct the light right to what we want you to look at, which is the signage.
Right. And that's where I think like uplighting,
Yeah.
like that colored building.
Well, actually, the building, I didn't think that was bad. Like I said, we didn't pick these
Yeah.
pictures. Somebody else
But
did.
I
this.
think that looks sharp. And then what we
Yeah.
have expressed as what we like is, yeah, the building is being illuminated, not
Yeah, the harsh, yeah,
the ones that are from the building going outward, but
yeah, that
if
harsh
it's
light.
illuminating the
Okay,
building,
so we like shielded lights.
Yeah,
yeah, shielded lights, yeah,
Shielded lights.
yeah. And then how do you say aimed at the building
Well, the problem.
or
though,
uplighting or?
In looking at this is landscaping and site, so that this could be parking lot, this could be building.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah, so
Um,
shielded is, yeah.
yeah,
To avoid the subjective part of it we're trying to not have. that would mean defining what color temp. That would be-
Well, we let them put, Los Pinos has got red lights on their building this today.
Right,
So we don't really say they can't have, colored lights. But we do, want it more not directed out so that it's invasive to other, people that aren't actually on this piece of property or on this building. That's what we did behind Safeway. All the lights that come out the back
Right.
doors are all shielded and shining down on the door, not out. And we made the Safeway people put all that fence back there belongs to Safeway, and all those arborvitae belong
Right.
to Safeway.
I
And,
do-
all shielding, trying to control the amount of light, diffusion that's going into the neighboring property.
but just playing devil's advocate, let's say I'm the
Safeway
owner
would.
of Dan's 66 Pizza,
Okay.
and I'm gonna do this big remodel. There's never happened.
Please.
We've heard the rumors.
And I put up
I'm in.
lights on my building and light my parking lot, which is now partially paved again.
Mm,
With
And
green
I,
light.
and I select 8,000 K, which is very blue lighting.
okay.
There's nothing in this that says I can't do that.
That's not subtle or attractive. No, I'm just.
But that's
Yeah,
a
I know.
subjective.
I know that's
Yeah.
what we're.
So I think that the recommendation I would make on this one is to recall that we just need the one to meet the state code. We just need
Okay.
one sort of, measure of success. And so if that means that people are in front of us at ADR permit applications needing to be able to have discussion over how not subtle blue is, then
Right.
that
Yeah.
we can still say, this can be achieved by incorporating shielded lights. That's a measure of success, and we can still say this can be achieved by lighting that's affixed to structures should direct light toward the structure. And those are, that meets the end of the RCW's expectations, but still allows for that flexibility
So
by
in-
the applicant.
Yeah, in the moment, we get to decide.
Well, what about shielded lighting in the spectrum of X to Y?
We can, but what she's saying is to hit state requirements. We've already done that. We still get to decide in the moment when they come
Yeah.
present. We
Yeah,
can say,
okay.
okay, this
What
is
we can-
8,000 lumens, we're nah.
Until the next
It's not
one
subtle.
has its rewrite.
Yes.
Right, and then we'll be back.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna say you gotta pick the lumens.
Yeah, yeah, in
Nice.
2028, they'll say you need four requirements.
The wavelength will
And,
be.
and the spectrum of color.
Yeah,
Is that,
yeah, I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Okay. Well, then, with that.
Thank you for doing all that.
Of course, I'm finished with this.
Give us an opportunity to accomplish.
And so we, that's why we have all these different opinions. We like to brainstorm on this committee.
So we don't need to do anything pages 74 through 83 tonight.
No, that's gonna be, I think, in March.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Just check.
All right.
In March for the last bit of ADR work, I'll also bring all the public feedback that we received when Scott and I did our separate doors through the businesses and share the feedback on the public's perspective of our design regulations and working with the planning commission and things like that, is to wrap up this agenda item.
Awesome.
That'll be good.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what they have to say. Moving right along to dumpster violations. How's that going?
Nothing new to report on that here.
Seems like I just saw one that I thought, holy cow, now I'm gonna have to start writing this stuff down or taking pictures.
Well, just like Gravity Coffee, their dumpsters aren't shielded. They're just
Which one's
Yeah.
Gravity?
one that used to be Elite.
It's over by Safeway by the.
Oh, in the
Planet
Safeway parking
Fitness
lot,
or
that
whatever
one?
it is.
Oh. Where are their dumpsters?
They're in the back corner at their roundabout, but they're.
Oh.
Not shielded at
Well,
all.
and Big J's dumpster still moves around.
We'd rather stay on.
If that's.
Pick a- pick a day.
If that's our biggest.
Pick a
concern.
day, pick a
We're
location.
doing okay, yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Crystal, does this community policing for that stuff, so. We'll keep an eye out.
we just try to keep, try to avoid, If we don't say something and keep, pestering at them to do something about it, then, it gets to the point where people say, well, you let Big J's do it, why can't we do it?
Sure.
And then pretty soon we end up with dumpsters all over our parking spaces. So. The sign code,
Yeah, and there's nothing new to report other than when I was driving home today, I did notice that the new commercial space here had a great big sign, and are we good there?
They
have
have reached out.
Okay, all right, was it, yeah, okay, well, that was just earlier.
is it just a
week.
renting sign?
It just says that commercial lease space available or something, but
Oh,
it's like a
yeah.
big billboard that's propped up against the building.
Well, they want you to know that they're ready for people. They'll
Yeah.
The banners are down.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Okay. So, Danielle and I'll reach out to the owner over here.
yes, at least we need a temporary or something, Yeah, you don't want that to be
Also,
your
those signs are still crooked, just saying. So,
the
I'll remind the.
I know. It just looks so trashy coming out of the bushes over there.
You wanna write that in?
Yeah, we might need to put that in the.
Times to be placed.
have we heard, Danielle, have we heard anything from the new business that took over Bucky's? I know it looks like they've got a banner up or something.
Yeah, they do. It's Orting Garage, under new supervision.
Yeah.
What it looks like is Orting Garage parking lot, because that thing is crammed full of cars.
But not on the ragged one.
Yeah, I haven't received a temporary sign permit. I definitely can reach out to them. I didn't know there was a banner over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
I
got,
do know that they are presenting or planning on putting together some kind of, I know they're working with Tim, our building inspector right now, to go through some kind of planning additions being added to the building, and they are gonna be having a new sign come in, but they wanna propose those together.
a building addition?
I wanna say it's like a carport kind of thing. I haven't seen the plans directly. I haven't been part of that. It has like.
That lot is really small.
Well,
I mean,
they need to be conscious of you can put up that temporary sign for only so long. We don't want to run into another Shell station situation where they take 2 years and 363 days to put together the building plan, and they have the temporary signage because they want to do it together. So the,
When I reach out, I'll be sure to give them a copy.
Yeah,
of our
please.
code where it specifies they can only have.
I hope once their business starts that I hope that that's not gonna be a parking lot like that every single day. That looks horrible. I mean, where do they put all those cars when they're trying to move them around? They can't all fit inside the bays and,
we can't regulate that.
oh my gosh, the parking. Holy cow. Well, what I'm interested in though is so
Shielded.
if they've got that much stuff that they're working on, where are they parking those cars when they're moving them around? Are they taking up street parking from that belong to, the public, not just his business?
It's an everyday game of Tetris.
I get, that's what it looks like. Definitely. That's a good analogy. Yeah. You have a word on that, Kim, or you're gonna ignore that?
She's gonna
That's
tell
a-
us we can't regulate that.
You tell me. I can't do anything about that.
Model traffic ordinance, that's state law allows for vehicles to be parked on the right of way for up to 24 hours, so I would imagine that if the chief of police were either right now, he probably see what they're doing is permissible,
Okay.
As long as they park them in their lot at night, kind of thing.
as long as they don't keep them there for over 24 hours.
Yeah, they,
Right.
I think they were all back on the slot. I just don't see how you can be very efficient at your business with playing Tetris all day with cars. Okay, sorry. I'll move on. And let's see, what's February, March? Anybody going to be absent in March? Tell
Let
me
me
that.
check, let me check.
No,
Check.
I will be here.
Oh,
April.
yeah.
Hope not.
April and July.
Hey, where are you going in April and July?
Can't use them all.
Ooh,
In April,
that sounds like fun.
I'll be in Greece in July.
That sounds like even more fun.
And I'll be gone in July, sorry.
You're gonna be here? Good. Tom, you gonna be here?
I'll be here.
Sounds good.
Maine, I will not.
Erica, Joe will be here.
I'll be
Awesome.
here.
Great.
I will not be at the next meeting. But Kim Agfalvy is gonna be filling in. for me.
Who's going to fill in?
Kim Agfalvy.
Oh, Kim, okay.
Are we allowed to ask where you will be?
I
Is
will
that,
be attending a concert. that
oh,
night.
nice, all right.
We're
T,
planning on my-
T Swift?
No.
All
No,
right,
you
that's
can't get
too
any of
much for
those.
public meeting, probably.
Does somebody want to report on the council meetings? Did they do anything?
Wow.
Yeah,
That's the one question.
Well, listen, now look, they're gonna sit there and go, no, nothing important.
The agenda real quick, make sure we're not. missing
Nothing
anything
important.
Super important.
The committee.
Yeah, they finalized they chose the deputy mayor and the new committee chairs for CGA, Public Works and Planning Commission, or Public Safety, excuse me. And then it looks like. Oops, sorry.
Years ago, we used to have the mayor actually came and sat at our meetings. And he reported on anything they were doing at city council. It was awesome. Then you kind of, it was all one big giant group. You knew what everybody else was doing and what was going on. It was very helpful. No, he sat in the audience,
No.
the mayor. Sam did. He used to sit up in the
Oh,
audience.
Right.
Yeah, and tell, and then
Those-
report on what was going on.
Mayors before me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, only other notable council items were the Murray disposal rates were approved for 2025.
Oh, great. I saw that.
Yeah, and then otherwise, just some scope and budget talk for a couple of projects in the community.
Awesome. Thank you. Agenda setting. Well, we're gonna finish the ADR thing. I don't know there was anything else on that we did tonight.
Just our usual stuff,
Yep.
Plus whatever comes in during the week, month.
Through the month, that'd be good, nice. Well, I know I've seen a lot of business going on outside of Orting, particularly in Puyallup, that are built, different restaurants that are remodeling their restaurants or building whole new restaurants to, and negating their old buildings. And so there's a lot of stuff going on. I think at the bottom of Shaw Road, they're building a whole nother set of apartments. I can't believe how many apartments they have in Puyallup.
The apartments and mixed use business.
Is it?
It's- Yeah, that whole.
And so
corner.
far, all I've seen is just the apartments.
Whole corner is gonna be kind of a duplicate
So,
of.
I'm kind of hoping that maybe we'll get a little bit more movement in our town as well. It's looking good for them. Although Puyallup, I don't know now, but it used to be, we did one of those dense, business, density study things years ago. And Puyallup was one of the cities that had a really high rate of unused business buildings, no occupancies. And yet they kept building more. And I couldn't figure out, why do you keep building more? That one section of those businesses there on Pioneer, where the Domino's, and I don't know what else is in there. That they built that and it sat vacant for years before anybody moved into it. So, I don't want to see that in Orting either. I'm hoping somebody picks up this little place right here real quick. Because, that it's good for the town and good for especially the downtown, looks good.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Commissioner Craig, as we seem to have run out of
we have, right to the minute.
stuff to do, I would move we adjourn.
Chris rules second.
We've run out of time as well. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So carried.
All right.
Look at the time. We're right on time. Look at that. 8:30. How about that?